The Love Island reunion gave us 5 unforgettable moments. A moment of tension, then a healing moment, an empowerment moment, the bullying accusation, but the last unforgettable moment stood out as the most hurtful of the night. And I know that every YouTube creator asks you to watch until the end, but I truly hope that you do, because the message at the end of this video is so important. Also, in this video, I am going to answer the question, did Jeremiah love bomb Huda? Hi, I'm Dr. Pam, therapist and relationship counselor, and I am so passionate about helping you grow both in your relationships and personally. And if that is something that you would like more of, I would love for you to subscribe so we can keep growing together. And for those of you who return often, your growth is the reason why I create these videos. So let's start with the tension moment.
How is it seeing each other?
Fine. I mean...
Weird.
I'm fine.
Very weird on my end.
Very weird.
Yeah, just weird.
That moment was so tense, it silenced the entire room, and the silence was deafening. When I reacted to Huda's Call Her Daddy interview, where she shared a lot about her trauma, I talked about how there are really 2 sides of Huda, the vulnerable, fragile side and the defended, protected side. It's how trauma can split someone, with different sides showing up at different times. And tonight in the reunion, we are seeing Huda's defended side. So when she says she's fine, and she may very well have moved on from Chris, but that is not how she spoke about him in past interviews.
He had a wandering eye. He was definitely looking at other girls, even if it was off camera, would say things about other girls. And it's like, why are you talking about a girl like that in front of me? And he would have little cute nicknames for girls.
I wonder if Huda has learned to tell herself she's fine, even when she isn't. Chris, on the other hand, openly admits that being around Huda feels weird after the way she spoke about him publicly.
Huda, I also heard you say in the press that Chris had kind of a running commentary going on the other women and that he had a wandering eye when you were together. What do you mean by that?
Honestly, I'm not angry about it. It's just like, we just weren't a good match. It's okay.
When Huda is asked what she meant by Chris having a wandering eye, she doesn't directly answer the question. She wasn't asked about whether she was upset. It was about an accusation that she made publicly about Chris. By shifting it to her feelings, she's deflecting to protect herself from the harder question. And that's why we see Chris react as he does. He isn't just responding to the accusation itself, but to the way she avoids addressing it, which can leave someone feeling both confused and dismissed. So next, Ariana asks Chris how he feels about the things Huda has said about him publicly since leaving the villa.
I don't respect it at all.
Do you think you would be friends?
No.
No. And why is that, Chris?
I just didn't respect the way she handled herself on that interview and the things she said. And, you know, even since then, she's had a month to like apologize and like talk to me about it, but she waited kind of until like 2 or 3 days before today to try to reach out.
Chris is saying he can't respect Huda's version of the events about him, and that's fair. It's incredibly difficult when you have no control over what others say about you. Even so, when Chris says he doesn't respect what Huda has said, I see him holding himself together remarkably well. He's clearly upset, but instead of attacking her, he is simply stating that he doesn't respect her words about him.
What happened on that call?
She said, well, I hope we can be good. And I said, I don't feel the same way. You know, I don't want that in my life. And I don't allow people that talk about me like that in my life. So, yeah, just keep it rolling.
You know, I called him and I expressed, because it was weighing heavy on my mind. And I had started seeing more and more of the like hatred towards Chris on my For You page. And I was like, I need to address this to him.
If Huda truly didn't agree with the hate Chris was receiving, then it's important to recognize that the way she speaks about him in interviews can contribute to that. The fact that she reached out only days before the reunion rather than sooner makes it harder to see that as a genuine attempt at repair. Timing and words both matter when it comes to easing tension and rebuilding trust. Okay, let's balance this with a healing moment. Let's talk about Hannah's hurt from being voted off the island and the truly healing moment that followed, both for her and the islanders who voted her off. As I'm sure that you already watched, Hannah was able to see the deliberation that Huda, Chelley, and Olandria went through when they decided to vote her off, and I just love Hannah's response.
I think that the general consensus from what I've seen since I've been out of the villa is everyone wants me to be so angry at them. And they're saying, like, they're not your friends, like they wouldn't have sent you home, but regardless of who would have gone home, somebody was going to be hurt, and it doesn't mean that those friendships weren't important.
It's so hard when someone gets in your head and makes you question your own thoughts and feelings. The fact that Hannah was able to hold on to her own truth, her thoughts, her feelings, even while she was hurt and wondering if she had done something wrong, is beyond admirable. But what is even more impressive is that in finding her voice, she not only affirmed herself, but she also created space for genuine healing with the women who were clearly hurt by making the decision to send her home.
And I would shut that down every time because you guys are important to me and you guys treated me so well. And like, this wouldn't have happened, Amaya and Brian wouldn't have happened. Like, I am so grateful that these beautiful connections were able to come, even if it was off of like a heartbreak for me. I get to cherish these friendships forever.
Emotional maturity is truly beautiful to witness. Hannah was able to share her hurt while also extending grace and understanding, and that's rare. She acknowledged that yes, she was heartbroken, and yes, she understood why they voted her off the island, and yes, she still values the friendships she made, and she is genuinely happy for the connections that others found, even while carrying her own heartbreak. Holding both pain and understanding at the same time is not easy, but that's exactly what she's doing, and it shows a depth of maturity that builds bridges rather than walls. So let's talk about the third memorable moment and what it means to find your voice and finally feel empowered. And for that, we're going to turn to Jeremiah, and we'll start with how he and Huda reflected on the pancake moment. Oh, the infamous pancake moment. I actually did a video about the pancake moment if you'd like to check it out. So Andy suggested that it seemed like the pancake moment seemed to push their relationship over the edge. And he asked Huda if she overreacted. Let's see what she says.
I mean, it sucked having an uncooked pancake, I'm not gonna lie, but you know, he made the effort to make a pancake. God bless him.
Huda doesn't really answer the question, does she, about overreacting? Instead, she deflects by redirecting the focus back on Jeremiah, saying that she simply wanted a cooked pancake, but he tried. But we all know how strongly she reacted in that moment. I mean, that's exactly why it's being brought up at the reunion. By dismissing it, she avoids facing the deeper issue. As I have suggested before, if Huda were to publicly or even privately take ownership of her actions, it would likely trigger shame. She hasn't yet learned how to accept responsibility for her hurtful behavior without being consumed by shame. So instead, she deflects. And that's not uncommon for people who carry unresolved trauma. Deflection becomes a shield against the unbearable weight of shame. She doesn't realize that she's protecting herself from shame. It's simply her automatic defense against it. So next, Andy turns to Jeremiah and brings up how Jeremiah had said in the press that his relationship with Huda was toxic. And he asked whether Jeremiah felt that way while he was actually in the relationship with her, or if that perspective came afterward. Jeremiah admitted that he screwed up the cooking of the pancake, but then he goes on to say this.
It wasn't about the undercooked pancake, but it was like the way she went about things, like asking Taylor and then like, oh, thank you, Taylor, thank you, Taylor. That's her sign to get me to notice another man cooking or something. To me, that's strange. That's where I was like, okay, let me start paying real attention to how our communication is.
There's definitely things that I should have worked on, and that's those things that I'm addressing in my life now. The thing is that you learn from mistakes and you work towards being a better person.
Jeremiah handles this well. He doesn't accuse or blame, but instead he reflects on the dynamic with curiosity rather than defensiveness, and that shows a level of emotional maturity. Huda's response is a small step toward ownership, but what's missing is an acknowledgement of how her actions impacted Jeremiah and their relationship. Without that piece, the repair is very limited, because true ownership in relationships isn't just about recognizing what you did. It's about recognizing how it affected the other person. So Chelley stepped in and said that he would have never put up with how Huda treated Jeremiah. And Jeremiah again steps in, showing his growth.
I'm never one to put the blame all on one person, but like our date, for example, I'm like, okay, first we have to, survive the villa. Then we gotta, do long distance. Then we gotta, date in the same city. Then we move in together. But then watching the clip back, she goes and tells the girls, he said he wants to move in with me. And that makes the girls look at me some type of way as the love bombing, where that's not at all what happened.
I'm going to walk you through this entire exchange because it's important. Jeremiah found his confident voice, something that he didn't have in the villa. He questioned himself often in the villa, and I know that the accusation of him love bombing has been the narrative. Huda, in her interview on Call Her Daddy, addresses love bombing. Let's watch.
Do you think you were love bombed?
Yeah. Plain simple. I think I was. In all complete honesty. I know that he feels indifferent. I don't think he fully understands the capacity of love bombing. He thinks that love bombing is just gifts and shit. I'm pretty sure. I think that's what I heard. I'm just like, that's not it. That's not all of it. Looking at me all the time and being like, I'm just kidding.
So Huda is driving the narrative that Jeremiah love bombed her. And Jeremiah at the reunion asked Huda directly if she felt that he love bombed her, and she said yes. So let's see what he says about that.
The definition of love bombing has to involve intent and manipulation.
People don't have to do it intentionally. You can love bomb unintentionally.
Let me say this. There is a difference between love bombing and moving too fast in a relationship. Love bombing is a manipulation tactic. It's about overwhelming someone with affection to gain control of them and the relationship. Moving too quickly is not about control. It's about a genuine excitement or inexperience with pacing. The key difference is that love bombing ignores your boundaries, while moving fast will respect them. If you're asked to slow down, you will do so.
Okay, so if you saying I love you twice in 3 days, and then me saying, yo, sometimes I do too much, I'm gonna be overbearing, let me know if I'm tripping, and you say, no, you're doing fine, how am I love bombing you if I'm coming to you and asking you, yo, I think I'm doing too much, am I? And you say no.
And this is the difference between love bombing and simply moving too fast. Jeremiah was checking in, asking if she needed boundaries, wondering if he was doing too much, and inviting her to let him know. Someone who is love bombing would not do that. They would push for more control, ignore boundaries, and manipulate to gain power. Moving too fast, on the other hand, like I said, often comes from genuine excitement or inexperience. It's about wanting closeness, not control. That was the case here. Jeremiah then goes on to describe the double bind that he felt that he was in, meaning in Huda's eyes, he couldn't win no matter what he did. Let's watch what he says.
And then also at the same time, I'm not doing enough. So with those 3 facts alone, in my eyes, I can't be love bombing you, because those all contradict what love bombing is, from my point of view.
Well, yeah, I felt all the emotions. Like when you would tell me things, like I've truly felt those emotions.
They were real.
Yeah,
sure.
I felt those emotions.
I didn't love bomb you. I just wanted to explain why to everyone else that said I was love bombing. Does that make sense to you, Ace?
Jeremiah found his voice a healthy, empowered, confident voice. And he's right. He did not love bomb Huda. What is important here is that he was able to speak with clarity and confidence without defensiveness, and that is growth. From there, he turns to Ace, and since Ace, I believe, is the one who first started the narrative that Jeremiah had love-bombed Huda.
When you're telling me very early on, yo, if a bombshell come in, just tell your girl, oh, I love you, and your girl not gonna leave you, and you tell me it's a joke.
Yeah, it's very clearly a joke.
Okay, but this is something a little off.
Yeah, but love bombing is to that person. I can't love bomb Huda through you.
So far, Ace hasn't really shown that Jeremiah was love-bombing.
You're coming to us about what should I do about this girl? What should I do about this? And then you guys are having this toxic-ass relationship throughout the villa.
True.
It's affecting all of us.
I agree, I liked her too much, moved too fast, with you on that.
Yeah.
But by definition, like, I did not love bomb her, I just liked her too much, too fast.
This is where it would have been really powerful if Ace had expressed regret for attaching the label of love bombing to Jeremiah. Ace challenged Jeremiah more than once in the villa, and what matters most is that Jeremiah is rewriting the narrative and reclaiming his story. And he does it without attacking or blaming anyone. He is simply defining what love bombing is and isn't, and by clarifying what he did and didn't do. He also takes accountability for moving too fast with Huda, and that's important to notice because when someone takes ownership without blame or accusations, their words carry more weight. That's exactly what we are seeing here. Jeremiah's honesty gives him credibility, and it shifts the way his story is heard. Accountability builds trust, while blame erodes trust.
I think when you called me a scammer, that is when I was like, what the hell? How am I? I'm going through hell right now, and you're calling me a scammer? Like, I don't...
Yeah. And that was off of the comments, what I was hearing. That's when I made the scamming
Yeah, but
content.
then, like, putting that on America, like, America thinks I'm a scammer. Like, that was, like, villainizing me when that was not at all what I was going through. I was just trying to deal with a relationship, that turned up toxic. And I'm not a scammer. Like, that shit really hurt.
So just to clarify, Ace not only said that Jeremiah was a scammer, but he also said that he was a liar.
We found a connection and we instantly liked each other, and then we explored that further.
You bullshitting. I'm not going for that bullshit. You
What's the
lying.
bullshit?
You lying,
What am I
bro.
lying about?
You acting like you all about one person day one. That's scamming to me. Off the rip,
Liking
that's
someone
scamming.
is scamming?
I'm telling you.
The point of Love Island is to what? Find someone you like, right?
Explore.
And I did that.
Right.
Those are strong accusations to lay on someone. Let's see how Ace responds.
So do you think that Jeremiah was there for the wrong reasons?
When I hear comments about getting the money, when I hear comments about followers outside the villa, I don't feel this is a genuine connection.
What did you hear?
It's been conversations of, when the guys are sitting around talking about, what was our following before this and what was your following and what do you think it's gonna be?
Ace doubles down on Jeremiah here, but I don't actually believe that Ace's feelings and accusations have much to do with Jeremiah. I actually think that Ace was triggered regarding something with Jeremiah. Of course, we can't know what that is, but his strong reaction tells me that it was likely a trigger. Ace is holding firmly to his narrative, but this time Jeremiah is standing his ground and holding his voice.
I'll clear that up real quick. One, I never mentioned the money. I remember I made a joke where like, oh, when we get out of here or when we win, I didn't go in there, let me go get 50, let me go stress for 6 weeks to get 50 racks. That's not, respectfully, like, I'm not going through that 50 racks, you feel me? So it's like, it was never about the money. And to two, your point, it was never about, oh, I can't wait to get out here and see what I got. So I'm not gonna go in here like rolling the dice, try to get followers. That's dumb.
Jeremiah makes it clear he wasn't on Love Island for money or followers. And the fact that he moved so fast with Huda shows that what he was really chasing was love. People who are focused on status or clout usually move strategically, choosing their words and actions carefully to maintain an image. But when someone is moving too fast out of genuine desire for closeness, it looks different. It's messy, it's imperfect, and it's often a sign that they are seeking love, not clout. So next, they move on to address Jeremiah being voted off the island by Ace, Taylor, and Nick. So you saw the clip showing the exchange between the three of them, and that Nick did not agree to want to dump Jeremiah off the island, which was actually a healing moment for Jeremiah, and he thanked Nick. And then Ace addresses that he was referred to as the ringleader in getting Jeremiah dumped. Let's watch this whole exchange.
You said the little ringleader, I remember.
Okay.
It's on the clips.
I don't think I said little ringleader.
You did.
But
You did.
I think that's an adjective you added. But
I'm just saying you did.
I did. Okay, then I did say, yeah, group ringleader.
I'm showing you this next clip to show you how difficult it can be when we are called out on our words. That's why so many people deny or defend rather than own what they said. So let's see what Austin actually said.
He's an ace follower. Their little ringleader ace is just gonna tell them all what to do.
So he did say little. Let's keep going.
Do any of you guys regret your decision?
Sending Jeremiah home? Yes, for sure. Being a part of that decision, yes. I can be a man and admit that. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong about certain things.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Who do you think should have gone?
Austin. I definitely feel like Austin should have went home.
I think this was Jeremiah's night. He found his voice, confident, not defensive. He took accountability when it was appropriate, and he even received some healing moments, one from Nick and a small one from Ace. And while I actually believe he deserves more than those small healing gesture moments, what stands out most is that Jeremiah is experiencing the deepest and most important healing of all, the kind that only can come from within himself. That is the healing that no one can take away from him. Okay, so let's move on to the claim that Huda made, stating that she felt that she was bullied by other islanders in the villa. So Andy said to Huda that he didn't notice bullying as a viewer and asked Huda what he missed.
Well, I had seen some clips after I left the villa that made me feel bullied.
What were in the clips?
It was when I think Chelley was there. I think who was there? Sierra. And I thought that you guys were like looking at me. I was just being funny and joking around, and then I had seen the commentary you guys made, and it really did hurt my feelings.
Before I address this, let's look at Huda's claim that she felt bullied.
I feel like I was bullied a lot in the villa. Like, I really do. I really 100% thought that I was being bullied in the villa, and everyone's just like, we would never intentionally do things to hurt you, like, blah, blah, blah.
One thing to note as I show you more, Huda didn't feel bullied when she was actually in the villa. She is saying that after seeing a clip that hurt her feelings, after she left the villa, she looked back and now believes that she was bullied. This is the moment that she is referring to as bullying.
So if you even feel like you have to stand your ground with every person that comes in here in the name of your person, that should be a red flag.
Yeah.
Why is she looking over here?
Oh, I think she thinks we're staring at her.
But we're not.
I'm going to say more about that moment, but let's see how Chelley addresses this moment with Huda.
I know exactly what clip she was talking about. We were all on the couch just sitting down talking. Might look like it was a mean girl situation or everyone was being mean or anything, but it wasn't even that. Like, I just knowing like how we all showed up for you and was there and kept preaching sisterhood. I don't think personally there was a time that anyone really bullied you.
Chelley acknowledges that that moment could have come across as a mean girl moment that could have been hurtful. But let me say this, at the same time, Huda had no idea what was actually happening. She didn't know what they were talking about and assumed it was about her. Of course it was, but she didn't know that. And it still doesn't make it bullying. The laughter was in response to Huda posing. Had she not assumed that they were staring at her, there would not have been laughter in that way. And that doesn't take away from the fact that Huda felt hurt in the aftermath of watching that clip. But feeling hurt and being bullied are not the same thing.
I'm not saying, oh, Chelley bullied me from start to finish. Nothing like that. I think that there were certain things that were said that did hurt my feelings. Maybe bullying could have been a different word, but truly, I've really just moved on from it. It is what it is. Like, you know, I don't have any ill will towards you, like, at all.
And likewise, and if you did feel like you were bullied, then I apologize for that.
To say that you were bullied is a very strong and potentially damaging accusation. In this case, there was no bullying, and yet in trying to make sense of her hurt, Huda used the word bullying. But that word did not reflect what actually happened, And that created a narrative with unintended consequences. Labeling people as bullies when they were not can have serious consequences. It can damage reputations, invite public hate and harassment, and unfairly brand a person or people with an identity that follows them for a long time after the show. False accusations like this don't just distort the story, they can deeply wound the people who are wrongly targeted. Huda casually says she could have used a different word, then quickly adds that she's moved on without ever acknowledging the impact of publicly claiming she was bullied. Chelley apologizes, but honestly, I wish that she hadn't said that she was sorry that Huda felt bullied. I wish that she would have apologized for Huda's hurt feelings instead. Huda thanked Chelley, I didn't show you this, for her apology, but the problem with that is that Huda is embracing that moment as if she was the only one who was the injured or wronged person, without ever addressing the fact that she put a damaging accusation into the public. And this will naturally flow into the most hurtful, unforgettable moment in this Love Island reunion.
I add that being in the villa, watching the day-to-day, I really thought that I saw Olandria really being there for you as a friend. Why did you feel like you couldn't lean on her in these moments where you said you felt you weren't supported?
This is actually painful to break down, but it's important. So first, before I show you Huda's response to Ariana's question, I want to show you what she said in an interview.
I would try to talk about things in a lot of scenarios where there's a lot of situations where I would be like, hey, can I talk to this about you? Or do you think this? And people would dismiss me multiple times in the villa. I felt like I had no one.
And I just want to show you a series of clips that I put together.
Don't think America's against you. They might be with you.
Validated, babe. Your feelings are validated.
I'm here crying and he's going and having a great day. Now he's thinking about being with Iris.
Did he say anything about me on the date at all?
Happy you guys.
It's obvious that these women supported Huda. So let's see how Huda responds.
So with Olandria, me and Olandria were really good friends in the villa. Like, I love that bitch down. You're not a bitch, but like, you know what I mean. This is how we talk. But I love Olandria, I love to death, okay? And she was there for me a lot. I think it was after that Stand on Business challenge where it was like, I don't know who to talk to, after that. And we've spoken about it, we've talked about it, and we moved on from it.
So Huda acknowledges that she loves Olandria, loved her in the villa, and that they talked about the mailbox challenge and moved on. And yet, publicly, Huda was still saying that she was bullied and that no one was there for her. And I'll share more about why Huda says one thing in one moment and something different in another. But for now, let's keep watching. So Ariana asked Olandria if she and Huda are still close.
So like she said, we're super close in the villa. Upon exiting the villa, once we got our phones back, I saw the amount of hate that I was getting from her stands, and I expressed to Huda, hey, I really feel like it's important, especially if you consider yourself being very, very close to me, and you was close to Chelley at some point, to speak out to your fans and kind of address, because the racism and all the things, because out of all of us, she had the biggest following.
I don't think it comes easy for Olandria to ask someone for help. That's just my sense of her. Of course, I can't know that for sure. But if that's true, then her plea to Huda was huge. She was likely scared, how could she not be, by the hate and racism coming at her, and was reaching out for support in what felt like a dangerous and overwhelming situation for her.
She mentioned that she would make a post directly to her fans. I was like, you know what? Thank you. That's all I asked, 2 or 3 days went by, and she even decided to address her people. And I'm just like, it pained me, because even when she went on there to say she was bullied and she didn't put a name to it, they thought I was one of the bullies.
And there it is, the dangerous impact of putting out a false narrative of being bullied when that wasn't the case. And let's be honest, labeling someone as a bully can fuel racism, and that is exactly why Olandria needed Huda's support. Instead, Huda held on to the narrative that wasn't true. And that choice didn't just cause hurt in that moment, it added fuel to hate and put Olandria and Chelley and maybe others, I don't know, at risk.
You know what I mean? So I'm glad she kind of put a name to it now and kind of cleared that up. It's like that shit added more hate. I don't think you understand it. That shit was with me mentally. It was so bad. I'm like, dang, like me and Huda was so close. Like I wasn't even worth the post. Like to address your people when they have the whole narrative wrong, you kind of just got into the real world and kind of fell into that narrative and fed it. And I'm like, damn, like did our friendship not mean anything, you know? Which is
I believe that Olandria is a fiercely loyal friend, and anyone would be fortunate to have her for a friend. For her to feel that her worth as a friend wasn't valued is deeply hurtful. And this hurt goes deeper. It isn't just about someone being a bad friend. It is about someone fueling a narrative that puts her in harm's way.
I remember I told you, I said, Olandria, I do not want you or Chelley getting hate. And I told you that. And I told you that I would address it. In an interview with press, I addressed the bullying and the hate towards you guys. And I said, I don't condone bullying. I don't agree with it. And it got aired the day you unfollowed me.
I'm going to show you the TikTok video where Huda says that she doesn't condone bullying in a minute, and I will comment on that. But let's keep watching.
From what I'm understanding, like, I don't know, you didn't really put a name to who your bullies were. I think now I'm getting clarification that I was one of your bullies.
I never put a name to it. I will say that. I never put a
that was
name.
dangerous.
I got
Hold
on.
That was dangerous.
Here's the thing. Huda was hurt. And as I've said before, because of her trauma growing up, she is emotionally fragile. So that means that she feels hurt easily and often struggles to make sense of her feelings and the feelings of others. So when she saw that clip that I showed you, she seemed to hold tightly to the belief that she was bullied. And we know that bullying is a trigger for her since she shared that in her Call Her Daddy interview, that she was bullied as a child. But here's the important distinction. She was not bullied in this situation. She even admits that she could have used a different word. What she does not acknowledge, though, is that the ownership of the dangerous narrative that she put into the media, one that unfairly labeled others and could have real dangerous consequences for them.
I literally called you out on the podcast and I said, I love Olandria. So I'm unsure of why you thought it was towards you at all.
Like, because I got hate from it. That's why I was so confused.
And I didn't even know that. And I wish you would have said something so I could just clarify again that I love you.
Huda continues to miss the point. It matters that she didn't name her so-called bullies who weren't bullies in the first place, because then people make assumptions on their own. It also doesn't matter that she says that she loves Olandria. Her bullying narrative blurred any clarity about what she was truly experiencing in the villa. And here's the other issue. Huda was told that her fans were directing hate and racism towards Olandria and Chelley, yet she never made a simple post asking for it to stop. So Chelley goes on to say that Huda was communicating to both her and Olandria after they left the villa, saying things that she missed them and they thought that everything was fine. And then the bully narrative started, which confused and hurt both Chelley and Olandria. And this is Huda's response.
Definitely said things on emotion. I thought things were great. And then starting to see the videos, it hurt my feelings. And I should have addressed that to you directly. And I do apologize for not saying things to you directly. And I don't think you should be getting any hatred at all in like terms of like people defending me or anything like that. Like you are a good person. And I don't want you to be getting any hate.
I mean, I appreciate your apology.
When Huda is hurt, it can be hard for her to see perspectives beyond her own hurt. So in those moments, her focus narrows inward, which makes it difficult for her to recognize the experiences of others alongside her own. What we're seeing here is the well-defended Huda, not the vulnerable, hurting Huda we often saw on Love Island. And when she apologizes for not going to Chelley directly, she is still missing the larger issue, the dangerous narrative she put out publicly, which carried consequences beyond her own hurt. And that is what Chelley and Olandria are trying to communicate to her.
I'll just say, like, it's just so confusing sometimes because, like, you know, in the villa, we had so many conversations where you apologize for stuff, and then we come out and it's, oh, I'm unapologetically myself. And then on a podcast, it's like watering down everything we talked about where you acknowledge, you know, I'm sorry I did this. I might have hurt you in this way and stuff. And then on your podcast, it's like, oh, whatever, I just did this. I don't care.
What Chelley is describing without realizing it is Huda's fragmented self, a result of her trauma, and this does not excuse her behavior at all, because this behavior from Huda was not only deeply hurtful, but as I said, it was dangerous. I am simply explaining it. There are two sides to Huda, and she isn't aware of them. When she is operating from one side, the other side doesn't exist to her, and vice versa. And that kind of fragmentation can be deeply confusing for the people around her because they never know which version of Huda they'll encounter. One part of Huda wants connection and the other part protects her from pain and shame. And that conflict within her makes repair hard for others. And here's the confusing part. Huda can be kind, loving, thoughtful, supportive, and caring, but only as long as she isn't being questioned for hurting someone else. When her actions are not in question, she shows those qualities easily. But the challenge is that we are all human and we all hurt others at some point in our lives. What matters is taking accountability and offering repair. That is where Huda struggles because her trauma has linked accountability with shame. And that shame can make it difficult for her to own her actions and move toward repair. And that is exactly what Olandria and Chelley need from Huda. So next, Ariana asked Huda why she didn't make that post that Olandria asked her to do. Here's what she says.
I was dealing with so much outside of that. Like, I didn't know what to say in that moment because I was dealing with so much. I wanted to address more than just that.
Truly wish you would have just prioritized that moment to just address the racism and the bullying towards me and Chelley, since that was spewed out the most. That hurt, Huda.
I was getting hated on as well.
Huda's response, I was getting hated on as well, is a defense against shame. Not excusing, just explaining. In this moment, her defenses are starting to break down. And when that happens, she tends to deflect and cast herself as the injured party as well. This is often how people try to protect themselves from the weight of overwhelming shame. And as Huda struggles to take accountability, the hurt for Olandria and Chelley only grows deeper.
I get that, but your face was not plastered on George Floyd's body.
I didn't
Mine
even see
was.
that.
I told you that.
This was as a result.
It
I
was
don't
that
condone
bad.
that either. I don't condone
I
it either.
explained
Me
it
addressing
in the
bullying
airport,
is
like that shit is hurt. That shit hurt.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't make the post.
I'm glad you've grown from it now, but that shit hurt, bro.
I'm really sorry.
We was close.
I'm really, like, truly,
and you
I
didn't
am.
fucking speak out for me.
For Olandria to show her vulnerability and her hurt here tells us just how deeply she's been affected by all of this. Because as I shared in a previous video, Olandria usually keeps her emotions very close. For Huda to respond with, I didn't make that post, shows that she still doesn't understand or take ownership of the narrative that she put out there. Here's what she could have said instead. Olandria and Chelley, I am so sorry that I didn't have your back. I didn't think about the dangerous position I put you both in when I chose not to make that post I said I would do. I will do everything that I can to change the narrative that I am responsible for putting out there. Both of you were good to me in the villa, especially you, Olandria. You have always been a loyal friend, and I hurt you in a way you did not deserve. And while, yes, I was struggling with my own hurt, I am still responsible for not stopping a narrative that put both you and Chelley in harm's way.
I'm hurt.
I said bullying, and when I was
It wasn't just bullying, it was racism.
All of it. And I'm really sorry about that. Like, I do not make these posts by people. I told people I don't want anybody getting hate. I don't want any bullying. I don't want anything. I've said it so many times, said it so many times today. Like, I'm sorry that all of that happened. But I was getting racism hate too. Like, I don't want you guys getting hate in that way. I think that's wrong. Racism is wrong.
Huda continues to deflect by repeating, I didn't make the post. And of course she didn't. That was never what Chelley and Olandria were asking of her. What they wanted was for her to make a post that could have ended the narrative of hate and racism. Instead, she created a narrative that she was bullied, leaving room for speculation about her so-called bullies and who they were. Huda is communicating her beliefs about bullying, racism, and hate, but it falls short when she's also feeding a narrative of being bullied without clarity about what actually happened in the villa. That lack of clarity not only hurts others, it also undermines her own credibility, because when you tell your story in a way that doesn't match the reality, people stop knowing what to trust. And this is the TikTok video that Huda spoke about against bullying.
With Olandria, like I still love Olandria. Like if you know, if I'm not hating her, I don't think anyone should be. I think that, you know, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but I think there are lines that are crossed. And I don't condone hate. I don't condone bullying. I don't condone anything of that. I think people's safeties are at risk. Yeah. And the last thing I want is for anyone to feel unsafe or to feel like they're getting some sort of backlash at my expense. I think that's ridiculous. I think, you know, everyone should be able to live their life normally. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You can say, hey, I don't agree with what you did, but, you know, do it in a respectful way that's not like antagonizing. And, you know, even with Chelley, like me and Chelley, we're not the closest, but we're cool with each other. And, you know, I do wish her the best and I do care for her as a person. We can still hug each other and say hi.
When Huda says, I still love Olandria, it leaves room for speculation. What does she mean when she says still loves her? That wording suggests a fracture in their relationship without offering clarity. She adds to the confusion by saying that lines were crossed and that everyone is entitled to their opinions. While she shares her perspective on bullying and hate, she never clarifies the most important point, that she was not bullied by anyone, despite saying in her Call Her Daddy interview that she was. Without that clarification, she fuels speculation rather than putting an end to it. And vague statements like these don't bring resolution. They create more uncertainty and keep the harmful, dangerous narrative alive. I shared in my Call Her Daddy interview about Huda my thoughts on her trauma, and those still hold true. She has endured so much in her upbringing. But Huda has power now, and with that comes responsibility. If she grows in awareness of how her words impact others, that power can bridge healing instead of harm. Well, that is a wrap on this video. And if you found it at all helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. See you next time.